Hello buddy, it's Wyvern here with another bit of Total War Warhammer 2 Quick Match Game Valley. This time around we are on the map Carrick Buftar playing as the Force of the Skaven against the Force of the Chaos. And for this matchup I simply want to do something a little off meta, something a little silly. I didn't want to do Master Zale sniping, didn't want to say bring a Mortis engine type build with Plague Furnaces and Warlock Engineers, just trying to melt my opponent that way. I didn't really want to bring like a monster match, and so I decided let's do something a little silly. Let's bring a few off-meta units and see what we can do. First and foremost, we are going to be running good old Ikit Claw as our lord, and granted this is definitely a bit of a meta pick. He's of course very powerful. On a Doom wheel like this, you've got Fear, Terror. One of the key things, of course, was that I figured I had enough. With my shooting, I've got enough tools here to deal with enemy at large. But I wanted to have units that could crush enemy infantry. Obviously, Skaven shooting not the best against shields. Even with, say, the shield breaker on the War Block Sales, it's still a difficult situation. So I decided, you know what, let's try to run them over with Doom Wheels. Rather than trying to, say, bring Deathglow Bombardiers or something, we'll double up on Doom Wheels. We've got Ikit Claw over here. He's got his Storm Demon, great ability. It's basically an Amber Spear, can delete infantry units, can beat up enemy lords a good bit. Definitely solid overall. We got unlimited power for the extra winds of magic. We do have Brass Orbs for the disruption as well as the damage output. Death Frenzy, because I want to protect my troops from routing, from Fear and Terror. We also do have Warp Lightning, of course, to zap enemy units if they get blobbed up. And finally, we do have the Mask of Fear, which is a map-wide debuff whenever I cast. Only lasts 8 seconds, but still, it is something. Alongside him here, we do have a second Doom Wheel, the Regiment of Renown Wheels of Doom. Now, this is something you don't see very often, and I think it's because it's just not that good of a unit. It's 300 more expensive Doom Wheel. The Doom Wheel's a chariot, so the extra melee stats don't really matter. Extra leadership is nice, but not really game-changing. And the only real benefit you get is more missile damage, because you get 2 projectiles rather than the usual 1. Now, this is cool and all, but honestly, probably not worthwhile, but I figured let's give it a shot, let's see how it does. For our firing line, it is quite a mix. We do have 2 units of Ratlin guns. I figured against a lot of the big monsters that Chaos often brings, like Shaggoths, Dragon Ogres, Sarthorael, that sort of stuff, these guys will be good enough because even despite their bad accuracy, it's just hard to miss those units. So they should be able to mulch them pretty effectively. They'll also be able to suppress them, slow them, prevent them from being too much of a nuisance that way. A single unit of Jazales, no Natty Boobos. Honestly, they're, in my opinion, one of the most, if not the most, overrated units in the game. The reason being that you don't need stalk and snipe against a faction that's going to rush you, basically guaranteed, like Chaos. And in my opinion, you just waste your money on it. And so you can see the Jazales are just firing off, teeing off on these Manticores as the match begins. Finally, we do have Ikit Zap Cannon, which is the Regiment of Renown Warp Lightning Cannon. It does reset cooldowns. Main benefit is that it's a 9 chevron Warp Lightning Cannon, which is nice, relatively cheap, and we are going to start teeing off on these Dragon Ogres relatively quickly. Our front line is composed of Clan Vulcan Taze Slashers as well as a whole bunch of Clan Rat Spears, so going pretty cheap and wide. These guys will be able to hold off and just stall units like Chaos Marauders, which I anticipated my opponent's front line would be relatively cheap. On the periphery, we do have some Skaven Slaves, definitely nothing too fancy, just looking to stall as long as possible. Finally, the Regiment of Renowned Council Guards sitting in dead center, backing up the Ikit Zap Cannon. Now for my opponent, who is already coming under some fire, he did decide to bring Archaon the Ever-Chosen. And not the most common pick for sure, but potentially a potent choice. He's only brought 1 spell, which I think is a bit of a mistake. Burning Head. I think Fireball, Cascading Fire Cloak, one of those cheap, effective spells, would have been worth bringing. But as it is, Archaon is going to be only using Burning Head. And it is going down on my line of infantry over here, so we definitely might see some roast strats. And actually, we see it happening now. It just goes down the line here. And I do try to dodge. I did see it coming in. I'm going to try to pull some of my Clan Rats forward and trying to evade the Burning Head. And you can see the War Block Jazales flying through there. The problem is that my, as you're going to see here, of course, the Burning Head does in fact have a, first of all, I underestimated how far it would travel. And that was a bit of a mistake. Second of all, the Burning Head has a bit of RNG involved. It actually curves. And it actually curves up into my Clan Rat Spears here, who were not dodging. And so they get immolated. Poor rats just destroyed by that Burning Head. I lose several models. This unit immediately buckles and routes. So rough stuff there immediately. Now for the rest of my opponent's army, he does have the Regiment around Forsaken, the Demon Spew, a whole bunch of Chaos Marauders making up the front line. Nothing too fancy there. A single unit of Chosen, great anchor tool. I personally prefer a lot more Chosen in this matchup. Chosen just butchers Skaven for days. 2 units of Chaos Warhounds for backline disruption, 2 Manticores for cheap backline disruption. In my opinion, I'm really not a fan of this unit because it rampages and routes pretty easily, but I can see where it's a cheap terror would be nifty. We also do have, I should mention, Archeon does have the Slayer of Kings, so his potential to do burst damage is insane here. Finally, the 2 Dragon Ogres we mentioned prior, who've actually kind of avoided the Warp Lightning Fire until now, and it's pretty nuts. You'd think that a 9 Chevron Warp Lightning Cannon would do a lot more. Finally, does connect decently, and like one shot did like 1,000 damage on these guys after failing to do much, but it keeps whiffing, so definitely some sad stuff there. The Manticores are going to dive in here and immediately get surrounded by the Council Guard, so not, in my opinion, what you want to be doing. The Warp Lightning Cannon, though, firing and whiffing, just these Dragon Ogres not really getting shot. They've basically just, yeah, not taking damage. In the meantime, though, the Manticores are getting swarmed. Ikit, as well as the the Wheels of Doom, are swinging around this way, looking to disrupt. The Manticores are surrounded and getting beaten down, but, you know, they are disrupting the Warp Lightning Cannon. I'm not really able to move it away. Meantime, another Burning Head doing down in backline, but this is ignorable. Burning Head doesn't do a lot of damage to single entities, or, sorry, low model count entities, so it's not able to do very much there. I should have mentioned, there was a Chaos Chariot, in fact, and it did try to flank here, and it just gets decimated. You can see that Gatling Fire, the Rattling Fire, I should be more precise, destroying it. And that's really the staying power of the Rattling guns coming into play there. In the meantime, Manticores are being routed. This guy down to 1,400, this guy down to 2,200. You can see I cast the Death Frenzy here, keeping the Zap Cannon from routing. Now, we did lose a gun to the Manticore Rampage, but, you know, we still got a gun online. And not losing this unit immediately, not having the crew rout and potentially shatter was huge. Meantime, the Clan Vulcan Tail Slashers are going to pursue the Demon Spew a little bit here, because we actually used Ikit as well as the Doomwheel earlier to punish them a bit. In the pit fight here, definitely going my opponent's favor for most part. The Chaos Marauders trading pretty well into the Clan Rats, but now with Ikit sweeping through, it's going to look a lot worse for him. Huge misplay, though, on my opponent's part is back here where the Dragon Ogres are wasting their time slugging out with Clan Rats, Skaven Slaves, and trash units like that. And these guys really need to be pushing around, getting into the backline. If they were on top of my shooting right now, this game could be going very differently, but they're not. And so that's a bit of a disaster. Manticores, in the meantime, are going to be rallying out in the distance. This guy over here is actually pursuing some Skaven Slaves who are completely routed. Zapsack Camp does take down Dragon Ogre. And unfortunately, this Rampaging Manticore is going to come in. You can see we're getting us a little swarmed. We've got this Chariot here swarming my Rattling guns. We do have the Manticore sweeping in now, jumping into the back of the Skaven Slaves, so definitely not what we want happening. Gisele's here trying to bring it down at point blank. They've only lost one model, but things definitely not looking the greatest. One of the big benefits, though, is the fact that Ikit is still very much around kicking, and he's able to just run amok among these troops. You can see those lightning blasts streaking out from the Wheels of Doom as we run over the Demon Spew here, just not giving him an opportunity to really do much before piling into these Hounds. And of course, Hounds have terrible leadership. They do not hold up to this at all. They do not like being run over by a Doom Wheel. This just looks amazing. Just look at these guys. Like, we're just roasting them, flying through here. There's lightning shots flying all over, and doing a lot of damage. But, unfortunately, the Dragon Ogres, once again, this is, in my opinion, a huge misplay. My opponent has this huge blobbed up on the Council Guard. Council Guard is not going to break. Just leave the Chosen to beat him down. In the meantime, disengage these Dragon Ogres, get on top of the more important units. My opponent has finally figured that out. He is going after the Zap Cannon, finally. But by now, unfortunately, well, the Chaos Feral Manticore here is still around kicking. But we're saving our Giselles here. They're going to escape. We've got all these rats coming back in. They're going to be able to deal with that Manticore. The Rattling guns here are going to rally, and they're going to be able to shut down this Manticore. And once and for all, you can see that flurry of fire, just slowing it down to 55 speed. It just gets decimated as it tries to land. Actually mulches the Rattling gun there. But who cares? There's plenty more rats where that came from, and he's a goner. Over here, the Zap Cannon is finally gone, but, you know, these Dragon Ogres wasting their time, and now they are within the arc of fire of those Rattling guns, and if they try to push in right now, they are going to get decimated. They're not going to enjoy that at all. We do have 15 guns here, we do have 23 guns over there. These Dragon Ogres try to get close, they're getting mulched. And we're going to keep peppering now. At the max range, of course, Rattling Gun's not doing the most damage, certainly not the most amazing unit there. Another fiery head there trying to go down, but does not go. I guess my opponent canceled, or I ran out of range or something. I'm not entirely sure what happened there, to be quite honest. Council Guard is dying to the last rat, which we expected. They've only got 10 kills, but that's obviously not surprising. They've mostly been fighting Dragon Ogres and Chosen this whole time. Like I said, these Dragon Ogres have zero purpose here. They should be out. They should be flanking, they should be chasing units off the field, they should be removing and pressuring my sails and the Rattling guns. But now this Chaos Chariot, his last Samuraiing here, gets decimated and just explodes in a flurry of Warpstone-infused bullets. Over here, similar case, the Warplock Giselle getting swarmed, sure, but every time my opponent tries to shut them down, we're just swarming all over them. We got these Skaven Slaves diving in. Skaven Slaves, of course, being expendable, are not going to impact the leadership of my other units, and Manticore has such low melee defense and such low armor that, in fact, these Skaven slaves are doing chip damage. They are whittling it down. You can see it's lost a good 400, I don't know, like 200, 300, 400 maybe HP here. And now it's getting unloaded on by those Rattling guns, and it's not going to be long for this world. Elsewhere now, over here, we are going to drop a Brass Orb on these Chosen, doing a good chunk of damage and disrupting them a bit. Burning Head does roast my entire pocket of infantry here, which definitely sucks, but the thing is, at this stage of the game, the infantry doesn't matter too much. What's really significant right now is the fact that Akit Claw and the Wheel of Doom are still running amok. They still have a little bit of ammo, which, whatever, I can't control that anyway, but they do still have a little bit of ammo. My opponent is basically out of backline shutting down troops. Archaon has actually been mauled pretty badly by peppering fire from the Jezzails, as well as just a hit and runs from Akit. One of these Dragon Ogres is practically goner. And keep in mind, they can't catch the Doom Wheel. Doom Wheel is actually faster than they are. So these Dragon Ogres basically down, just 2 models left. Archaon are probably the only thing keeping him in the fight. These Dragon Ogres are here, also down just to 10 models. And as we're going to pull our trash into the fray here, my opponent's going to get blocked up. Again, now Archaon here pushing through bravely, just diving into the Rattling guns. Rat Ogre's going to pour in as well. The Rattling guns are going to rout, and we've got all this crap in the back, which can now push forward and is going to take point for us. In the meantime, Ikit, as well as the Wheels of Doom, diving in and shoving off these Dragon Ogres. You can see the Terror kicking in. These guys down to 2 models and want none of that business. Archaon here trying to get in there and shut those guys down, but Jezzail's harassing him the entire time. Ikit dives in. And this is not where Ikit wants to be. Ikit will lose to Archaon probably, even with Archaon's crippled state. But being able to disrupt him here, prevent him from chasing my Rattling guns, and the Rattling guns do rally and stick around there. Does mean that now the Rattling guns are back online. My opponent didn't manage to get rid of them, and suddenly Archaon is going to be taking that withering rear fire, and that's not what he wants. These Dragon Ogres now trapped here by this horde of filthy rats, losing a 400 damage or so in that volley. Jezzail's contributing their damage, and the Wheels of Doom still doing a great job. Just routing off the dogs easily. Chosen, of course, will not be able to win. Doom Wheels are just a win condition, essentially. If you can't get rid of the Doom Wheel, you're going to lose the game with just infantry. Over here we are actually going to finally cast, and I actually didn't cast this entire game, but we are going to cast the Storm Demon. Does a couple hundred damage to Archaon there, stunning him with some Warp Lightning as well from Ikit's Doom Wheel. But Archaon is coming in. He definitely wants a bit of that Rat Wheel, but it's not going to happen. Skaven Slave is moving into intercept, and he's forced off, and at this stage it's basically game over. We do still have pockets of infantry scattered all over the map, rallying and pouring back in. We do have a Rattling gun still sitting around, and these Dragon Ogres buckling under pressure. We're able to run over these Chosen with Ikit as well as the Wheel of Doom. Finally, army loss is kicking in, and the Forces of Chaos are removed from play. So Pyrrhic victory for the Forces of Skaven. Fun little match that I felt with what I felt was a bit of an unconventional build. Obviously, going wide with lots of Daka is a standard with Skaven, but I felt that bring a few Rattling guns is definitely fun. You don't see them too often, I think, because they're just such a pricey investment for damage that's very inconsistent outside like point blank range. I actually think Rattling guns could possibly use with a tighter spread on their shooting, because their damage up is just so bad at long range. And like when I say long range, I don't even mean very long range. I mean like 100 meters or so. It's very difficult to get consistent value out of them. They arguably do less damage, I think, than Troll Hammers would against like infantry. But the Jezzails, of course, they didn't get kills, but I think obviously, you can't really judge the unit purely by kills here. The Jezzails performed very well at sniping down Archaon, whittling him down over time. They whittled down the Dragon Ogres, the Manticores, and the Chariots. Same thing with the Rattling guns, like only 6 kills between them. 4 kills on the Zabsapkan. All these units essentially spent the game crushing big monsters. Now, one thing that did disappoint me in this game a lot was the Zabsapkan, actually. I'd kind of expected the unit to actually shoot those Dragon Ogres, and it basically spent the entire game whiffing. It only connected on a few shots. Basically, the first 2 or 3 volleys were completely missed. So I was really disappointed with that, and I felt like I just wasted gold there. The Wheel of Doom actually did surprisingly well, though I'm not sure it's really justifiable. I think you're generally going to be better off with a normal Doom Wheel, but it was fun to try it out and see those blue lightning bolts. It just looks awesome. It looks amazing. It was originally slated to have Discouraged in the original patch notes, or maybe not, one of the original lineups of abilities and stuff listed for it. It was supposed to have Discouraged, but that was removed, and it no longer does that. And while I can understand why they took away Discouraged, the fact of the matter is the Wheel of Doom is just not a very useful unit, in my opinion, compared to a normal Doom Wheel. I don't know, my 2 cents there. Make it, of course, very good. Now, for my opponent's build, it's definitely a bit haggard. I think he could have pulled it off with his build if he'd been a little more on top of his micro. Leaving the Dragon Ogres just sitting and fighting, forgetting about his Chariots sometimes with the Manticores, really hurt him, in my opinion. And allowed me to just pick apart Sean's, especially the Dragon Ogres. If Sean's Dragon Ogres had been on top of my Ratlin guns, that game would have been over easy, in my opinion. Personally, though, I don't think this is necessarily the most competitive build against Skaven. I think you're generally going to be better off with more Chosen. I really like Chosen in this matchup. They're a very potent tool. They're still very strong, even with Gisele's taking front and center position. Chosen can just wither everything and then beat the crap out of it in melee, and I just love them. But that's just my 2 cents. Well played to Sean here. Definitely some nasty birding. He has 280 kills on Archeon, no mean feat. Definitely was roasting those clan rats and Skaven slaves. I do hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you found it entertaining and fun. If you did, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, and share. If you have any comments, criticism, questions, don't hesitate to put them down below, and I'll do my best to respond as soon as I can. I do thank you all for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye for now.